Dad Bod, Rap Pod, the continual search for realness in the universe. Hi, my name is Damone Carter, aka Dim1. I am joined by the Dad Bod, Rap Pod conglomerate of Nate LeBlanc.
What's up?
And Mr. David Ma.
Good to be here, guys. It's so hot out today.
Man, it's summer for real. It's summertime for real here in sunny San Jose, California.
The living is easy.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Do you know the way? So we are here in the sweltering Dad Bod studio. We've got a really dope show with a I think it's safe to say kind of a hip hop recluse. Which we'll talk about that in just a moment. But to ground us in the conversation that we're going to have, the interview that'll be coming up in a little bit, wanted to talk about Minnesota, Minneapolis to be specific. One of those cities that actually has a rich musical legacy. I mean, definitely on the back of Prince and Paisley Park and everything that happened out that way. Is there some other Minneapolis movement of music that I'm not thinking of? I think
Bob Dylan
Prince.
is from
Right.
Minnesota.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
He
that's
left
right.
there to become Bob Dylan. Like Robert Zimmerman is from Minnesota.
Got you.
But
Got you.
Bob Dylan is from Greenwich Village or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me, besides all the stuff we're about to talk
Right.
about.
Not to skip too ahead, but I mean, obviously, Fifth Element.
Right.
Atmosphere and the whole scene they built, obviously.
Yeah. So we're kind of gonna talk a little bit about that maybe unheralded scene, given how successful just rhyme sayers in
Right.
general has been in hip hop.
Arguably the most successful, right?
Indie label?
Yeah, indie label, Midwestern rap.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
can you think of another one?
That's
Stone's Throw?
Yeah, but they're L.A., right?
Right. It's easier to make it from L.A.
Right.
exactly.
San Jose.
Which is why Peanut Butter Wolf left here
Right.
on a in a good way to
As
to
I
go
always
start
said it when
that.
I was a kid, leaving on a jet train.
Nice. Nice. Oh, man. Shout out
It took me years to figure out that was not a thing.
So rhyme sayers, the Minneapolis movement, kind of two, I think. I don't know what you want to call it on their route, Mount Rushmore of rap, is definitely Atmosphere.
Sure. Of that era?
Yeah,
100%.
definitely. And kind of still, like, I look at Atmosphere as, like, almost Grateful Dead-like, and the ability to continually tour. If you look at their Wikipedia, it says they formed in '89.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which is a long time. But they've been kind of a national commodity since '96.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. So this ability to kind of keep to stay, for lack of a better term, relevant in underground hip hop
Right.
over 2 decades. So I wanted to throw this out. What is your Atmosphere kind of record that you really, when you think of the group, you're like, this is my record?
I have a quick story. I saw them at the Cactus Club in San Jose.
Wow.
When I was 19, it was like some day show. It was like Slug and Idea.
Oh,
Melted
wow.
my face, dude. I mean, as a 19-year-old,
Sure.
just cut class, My Atmosphere introduction, and probably still my favorite, is probably the Lucy Ford release.
Okay.
It was like a collection of the EPs.
Yeah.
And Modern Man's Hustle, and just some of the great ones are on there. Lady with the Tattooed Hands, like those tracks.
Yeah.
Like the early sort of dark Anticon productions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Say earlier the better for me in terms of my personal listening. I have like a thing with the song "Party for the Fight to Right."
100%.
I love that song.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Atmosphere song, like bar none.
I think that one's off of Overcast, right?
It's on the. I think they're the Lucy Ford EPs. It just says Atmos on the cover and Fear on the other one.
I think that's Overcast.
12. Okay.
Whatever.
You know more about it than I do, but yeah. So that's my cut. I respect them more than like I listen to a ton of their music. I went back and listened to some Dino Spectrum this morning.
Oh, wow.
To prepare, like that's some underground rap. Dude.
Yeah.
That record just had its 20th anniversary, and I think
wow.
that's a canonical underground nerd rap.
Remind me again, was
record.
Dino Spectrum like Musab?
It's Slug, Idea, and I think Musab, who
Okay.
later took
Micronauts
on a
or
different
something
name.
like that?
Perhaps. I don't
Okay.
know, to be honest. But yeah, they have a incredible staying power,
Right.
and I'm a little jealous of their scene. It's like
Totally.
Minneapolis is the 16th largest city in the country. San Jose is the 10th. It's like I'm like, if they can do it, we can do it.
Yeah,
Right.
we have nothing on
And yet
Minneapolis
here
right
we
now.
are.
Yeah. We have no shade to anyone, but
Yeah.
for me, I would say my Atmosphere record, a little later in the game, was Seven's Travels. That's when it was like the hit, but trying to find a balance was a real.
Okay.
It helped me see the broad potential of underground rap. Because I look at my own music, and it's definitely in that lane, but I was always like, oh, only 4 people want to hear something like this. You know what I mean? This kind of deep, introspective, almost like I look at Slug as like the rap Bukowski. Like
Back in the day, now it's very like family.
Oh yeah. No, he's made a dad transition
totally.
for sure, and somehow still
Haven't we all?
Yeah, exactly.
Still able to sell out shows, though.
Yeah, it's still selling out shows, still relevant.
Yeah.
But that era for me, on the record, Seven's Travels, there was Trying to Find a Balance. There was the joint Shoes, which I always thought was cool and
I
hilarious.
think Always Coming Back Home to You is on that one.
I believe so.
Love that one.
So he kind of has this like forlorn rap loser thing that he really made it work. And to kind of foreshadow our guest today, Ant, who was the producer of that record and 9/10 of the Atmosphere catalog, the soundscape I always felt like really complemented what Slug does and his thing. It's like it's really a great marriage. Now I'm not going to say I'm the biggest fan in the world, but definitely the Seven's Travels record for me was heavy rotation.
Yeah, I think he's a great producer. He's had a really long career. They have a great kind of fluidity and chemistry.
Right.
Yeah.
They've progressed. It's kind of, I don't know if it still is, but there were definitely some years where Atmosphere was a band, not just the two of them.
Right,
So integrating all that stuff in a non-cheesy way.
Totally.
There's been kind of an inside joke with us where you just need to run for the hills anytime you hear the term instrumentation. It's just like you don't want to hear that. It's just like it's a part of the production or it's not. It's not like you make a beat and then add some instrumentation. Like that's just a bad way to make music. I think it's a bad way to think about how you're producing your tracks.
Yeah.
It's like there shouldn't be just random guitar because your friend plays guitar. Like is it part of the song or not?
Right.
It's like, is this the vision that you have? So that's what we call songwriting.
Sure.
Not adding some instrumentation. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Right.
Instrumentation, a dirty word for those of you scoring at home.
It's really good to see Ant's growth as well. Speaking of the Dino Spectrum until, say, the later Atmosphere records, where it's like incorporating a lot of more layers and samples, whereas the early stuff was just hard snares and drums. Right?
Yeah. And I really want to talk to him about some mixtapes that he made called Melodies and Memories.
Yeah, I heard.
Which are phenomenal.
Totally.
And they're kind of produced mixtapes where he like plays songs and then takes parts of them and like loops them up and like brings it into the next thing. They're brilliant.
Yeah,
like,
they're great.
They're awesome party records or like background music records, and they're just really, really well done. So I kind of want to talk to him about how he came upon that and made that his kind of style for his mixtapes.
Right. And maybe to a lesser degree, I shouldn't say lesser, but kind of in a little bit of a different vein, I think out of Minneapolis Rhymesayers crew, Brother Ali has had a great run as well.
Very good career.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have kind of my definitive record for him, but just his whole kind of story of being an albino kind of drew me in, and then he has a very a very direct political perspective that he brings, which is really interesting for underground rap.
It's a political as well as he emphasizes his Muslimhood a lot as well.
Yeah.
Hugely.
He was one of the kind of premier. There's like when I think of the George W. Bush administration in hip hop, a couple things come to mind. One were those shadow picture discs where it was like the grotesque renderings of Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and stuff. And then some of them, Brother Ali did a series where it's red, white, and blue vinyl, and they're all like political songs. I have a funny story about Brother Ali. I have to give a shout out on this episode to our brother Overflow, who produced the Psalm 1 record on Atmosphere. and who's a good friend of ours and who managed a bunch of tours for these guys. So we've heard a bunch of stories that we're not ever supposed to hear, and we won't repeat. But just briefly, we got to go backstage for a Psalm 1 Brother Ali show, Dave and I, and because he doesn't drink, full bottle of Jameson in the green room.
A handle of
Yeah,
Jameson,
a handle.
Yeah.
Was that at Slim's?
Yes,
At Slim. So we had a bunch of friends there, and we kind of were like bringing people backstage to do shots, and it was a really fun night.
Super fun.
Yeah,
I'm sure
we got to meet him, and I gave him I'm sure a very sweaty, effusive greeting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure he was thrilled to be around you guys stone sober.
No, this was his. This was his big solo release record. So actually,
Okay.
yeah, he was really stoked. I mean, I think Nate was like, "Hey, how did it feel to have, 500 people scream your name? Literally,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
chanting
yeah.
Ali Boombayah."
Yeah.
It's like some pre-podcast for you.
You've been about this life. Yeah, this ain't nothing new. I look at Brother Ali as kind of like an heir to the America's Most Wanted Ice Cube kind of Paris.
Sure.
Like I'm giving you point of view and perspective.
Yeah.
And unlike some rappers who kind of just I don't know. Kind of go into a grab bag of political terminology and throw songs at you. He has real ideas that really come to the forefront, and with the right production, at certain times worked very, very well.
Yeah,
very, very well.
His music can be very effective. I mean, for sure. It's always, I'm not always in the mood for such like serious subject matter,
Totally
introspective stuff. But I mean, you really can't. You can't hate on the fact that he's made some incredible music.
I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the kind of gladiatorial battling aspect of the Scribble Jam era. That's when a lot of these guys made their name.
Yeah.
Like that was when, and correct me if I'm wrong, I never went to a Scribble Jam, but it was a huge deal in underground hip hop at the time.
Huge.
And a lot of connections were made, and I get the sense that a lot of these guys are friends, and they would have to battle each other, and it was kind of good-natured, but like pretty vicious battling, and it's before battle rap, I'm using air quotes you can't see, kind of became this a cappella stand-up comedy routine. It's more hip-hop than that.
Is that when Eminem was made to cry?
I think I was just gonna say that. I think,
or is that the Rap Olympics?
No, I think Eminem famously battled Dose One at a Scribble Jam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So weird.
I don't know where the joke is, but there's something about like dogs all running and like all the high-pitched noises coming out of that battle. And just the timbre of each of their voices. I'm not sure if that's something I would want to listen to.
Dog whistles.
Both incredible rhymers in their own regard, but that is some nasality.
That is hilarious.
Isn't that where and forgive me because I'm not super up on the catalog. Isn't that where Abilities idea kind of came through?
I saw Idea and Abilities open for Cannibal Ox open for LP around the time of I'll Sleep When You're Dead, and he tore it up, dude. Like he could really freestyle. He had a lane and almost like working himself up into a state where he couldn't stop. It was really impressive, and died tragically young.
Totally.
An important part of that story, I think,
Hugely
is that these dudes can rap.
Yeah. Do you guys remember HBO's Blaze Battle? That was sort of the national spotlight on Scribble Jam and the whole groundswell of the movement. Yeah.
So definitely, we are envious of the Minneapolis scene. I actually got to meet some folks. Not the weather. Exactly.
Well, today.
Yeah, exactly. I got to meet some folks from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I hear it's dope. So whoever wants to fly us out,
we'll do a live in-store at Fifth Element.
Absolutely. We're here for all of it. Summer, spring months only, please. So we are going to transition into our interview with Ant from Atmosphere, longtime producer. Really a recluse, doesn't do a lot of press. So this is definitely kind of a coup for us in terms of getting to talk to someone who doesn't really talk that much. So we hope you enjoy this interview with Rhyme Sayers stalwart Ant.
Yo,
Okay, perfect. All right, Ant. Again, this is David Ma. We're calling from the Dad Bod Rap Pod with Damone and Nate. Welcome.
Right on.
Right on, man. You know what are you up to these days musically?
Same old shit I've been doing for like a long time. I still do the atmosphere thing and
Okay.
And some Brother Ali stuff here and there, and every now and then just shit for myself.
Yeah.
I don't put
So
out or
I
nothing
wanted to
like that.
mention. I wanted to mention that. Have you? Are you working on any sort of solo Ant material?
I can't say that. I haven't figured out the right way to present it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If I did do that, it's kind of like one of those weird things where, like, I'm not a fan of instrumental hip hop, so it's hard to like get. Why would I release that shit if I don't listen to it? You know what I mean? So that's that. So if I did something like, I always have this little thought that I'd work with like maybe a variety of singers or some shit like that. But even that sounds like a fucking headache. You know what I mean? So
A lot of logistics.
yeah. So in my sometimes I have imaginary friend rappers that I have in my head. Make shit at home and that's that.
Dope. So could you tell us a little bit about how did it start for you? I read that your pops was a DJ. Like, what was the gateway drug for you to get into production?
Yeah, my dad messed around with the DJing stuff like at home. You know, he was in the Army, so I'm an Army brat and grew up all around and stuff. And he used to have like little parties and shit, and his friends would come over, and significant others and all that shit, and and he would just pretend to be a DJ, and just do his thing, and that was probably the spark. And you're talking in the '70s and shit, and he didn't even have, there wasn't even like headphones for the, you just guessed at dropping the needle, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where his school was at, and I was like always just intrigued that, how many people came over to his house and shit like that. And I was just a little kid, watching like, oh dang, he's cool. Yeah.
Can you tell us kind of what kind of equipment you started with? Like, or were you an SP12 guy? Were you an MPC guy? And kind of where you are now?
I started with, so basically my very first thing I ever got was a drum machine, like in the 80s, it was an RX-5 drum machine that I kind of actually stole from from a wedding band and shit. I feel bad about it now, and I kind of shouldn't even talk about it, but I do feel bad about it still. But I did do that, and that was my first piece of like real equipment. And at the time, it wasn't the hot drum machine, but it was the affordable drum machine.
Sure.
It's more or less, it's basically like it's pretty bad basically. But anyway, that was the first thing I had, and then when I did find with something kind of super real in my eyes anyway, was the Ensoniq EPS, which actually, then I got the ASR-10, and I'm on the ASR-10 to this day, and the damn thing
really?
changed.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel that with all the kind of increases in availability of gear and software that music is getting better or worse?
It's better. Yeah. Nowadays, most people are no jokes. Nowadays, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I listen to. It could be my age too. I'm about to be 48. And when I look maybe to the average 18-year-old, everybody's same and bullshit to them, or 30, or maybe it's something. Maybe it's like that. But from my vantage point, I'm like, shit. Half these motherfuckers are no joke out here.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's good to hear. That's refreshing, actually.
You mentioned imaginary MCs earlier. Who are some of your dream MCs to work with? I mean, obviously, besides your working relationship with Slug and Brother Ali and the rest of the Rhymesayers, which MCs would you love to work with?
hard. That's hard. Kind of hard to say. I guess I'm one of those. I'm more open nowadays than ever to work with a lot of different styles of people. But I guess it would, you know, it would just depend. And I don't have like a giant wish list. I used to just have a list of like people that I don't hear of often. But now I feel like everybody has like a little moments of reassurance, what's the word I'm looking for?
Reemergence.
Reemergence of some level, you know what I mean? Like, for a long time, I was like, oh, where's MC8, man? I want to fuck MC8, you know what I mean? And then it's premiere, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like one of those kind of deals. I would always want to work with people that you're not seeing as often, you know? But, but shit, man, you know, sky's the limit as far as that. There's a lot of different styles people out there like.
Right. Okay.
So it's been a long run. Is this at all surprising to you? You mentioned you're about to turn 48, but you know, Atmosphere as a group is still touring, is still very, very popular. Is this at all surprising to you in kind of a young man's game that rap can be?
The answer is kind of two. There's two answers. You know what I mean? 'Cause I have my confident side and I have my insecure side,
Right.
And I can give you, and depending on the day, I could give you one or the other. You know what I mean? But today I'm feeling a little extra confident, and I'd say it does not surprise me at all. I'm actually surprised me I'm not bigger, and that's what I really feel.
Right on.
On that note,
but then there are them days though. Don't get me twisted. There are them days where we're playing some show, and you know, there's like a couple thousand people there, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing here? And they're tripping, you know what I mean? So, what is your problem? And then we'll go down south, and you know, we'll play for 50 people, so and get chin checked real quick, and reality check. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know, it just goes like that.
Cool. In that way, can you kind of talk about how Atmosphere has developed as a band? Like it kind of started out as the two of you, and now when you tour, there are players with you. And are you the band leader and kind of musical director? And is that part of your job within the group?
Yeah, that is my job with the live part. But we haven't traveled with the band in 5 years. So
Okay,
I guess you haven't
so
been
that was
to a
kind
show
of an
lately.
era. Sorry, man.
And then it's all good. You know, it's all good, my G.
Are you guys back to the DJ rapper setup?
Yeah, and it's me and my guy, Plano Bill. He's another DJ, and we have like we do it like that, like a 2G DJ thing, like Dougie Fresh used to do back in the day. So
Nice.
it's kind of like that. We use and we have like a lot of the tracks spread out and shit like that with Ableton and stuff like that. So it's different than it was like a while ago. And we've been doing it that way for maybe 5 years or so.
Okay, cool.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
When we had the musicians, I was a band leader for the musician things, and now I'm just kind of I push buttons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It's the way of the world.
for all the atmosphere, for all the atmosphere diehards out there, how did you and Slug meet? And you know, how was the Minnesota hip hop scene when you guys first started?
How'd we meet, and then what about the hip-hop
And
scene?
how was
What?
the Minnesota hip hop scene when you guys first started out there?
Oh, okay. Well, when we first met, I'd say 95, 96, something like that. We were, we had a mutual, well, we still do. Musab is a mutual friend, and I was working with him. It was me and Musab pretty heavy back then, and Slug came over for a guest verse. But I actually had met him a couple times prior, so he doesn't really recall that. And it wasn't like a big meeting or nothing. I just remembered it because he had just won like a rap battle thing. So when he won that, of course I remembered him. He doesn't remember meeting me then, but so, and then the studio session of some sort too. But yeah, when we met, you know, at my crib, doing a song with Saab, and it morphed into the headshot stuff. So that's how that
right.
went. And it took a while for us to actually work together. I'd say it took about a year before us to end up really going at it or anything like that. But yeah, so that's how it started, I guess. And then the scene at the time was in Minneapolis. It depends on what part you're thinking of, in the sense of you're talking about people trying to make a living, or you're trying to just people passing the time trying to get pussy, or it depends on what level, you know what I mean? Or just being teenagers with nothing to do, you know what I mean? There's different levels.
Sure.
So in 1995 when I met Slug, I was 25 years old. I had a job going nowhere fast and a relationship going further fast. And I was like, this was a dream of mine, you know what I mean? And it was a very slim dream at that, you know what I mean? It looked like it was going to be impossible, you know what I mean, to get and to make a living like this. So meeting him and being part of Headshots and all that, Rhymesayers and everything, at that time, there was no chance of hip-hop coming out of here. It was like, how is that possible? People still wonder how it works, even this day and age. You know what I mean? At the time, it was either L.A. or New York. That's it. There was no other choices, and they ain't trying to hear you. You could take all your CDs or your whatever the tapes or whatever the fuck at the time to these people, and they ain't trying to hear you. You know what I mean? So that was when I met Slug. That's what the state of hip hop was in Minneapolis, just from my viewpoint.
Okay.
To see how you've built it up from there is incredible. It's really, really, really commendable. Can we talk a little bit about your Melodies and Memories mixes? I think that they're fascinating because they're kind of like produced mixtapes. I've never really heard anyone do that before. Like, can you kind of talk about how that came about and kind of what your methodology is for those?
Man, those were passion projects. They were inspired by the New York Scratchmaster records that I had when I was a kid, and Dr. Dre mixtapes, Latin Rascal mixtapes. Those were the things that really got me into DJing, which led to producing. Those mixes were so intriguing to me. My life when I was a teenager in middle school, especially middle school, when you're at the most impressionable part of your life, between 13 and 16, that's all I did was watch this stuff, and DST, Grandmaster Flash, watch things, the little list you can see. I only, there was like maybe five pictures of people scratching or whatever. You know what I mean? It was very minimal. But you had these tapes. So those tapes were something that I just always wanted to do. And but so obviously I put my own twist on it. Obviously, it went years later, and some of those I worked on for like a few years.
Wow.
Kinda. You know what I mean?
I mean, they're really detailed. You can tell that you put a lot of work into it. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of those.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm always surprised when anybody ever knows about them or understands them or likes them. So I'm really proud of them because I put a lot of time into it. But it's like, and it was strictly just to say that I finally did it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I did two of them. So yeah.
Speaking of music that you're into, what are you listening to nowadays? What's moving you as a producer when you check out new joints?
I could say this straight up because I just been listening to it. Was the new Royce 5'9" record?
Yeah.
I love the shit out of that. It speaks to me. It speaks to me in a lot of ways, and I love the honesty and what I love too is he's getting better with age. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can't even say when he first came out, I just thought he was another rapper back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, I mean, he was cool, but, whatever,
For sure.
But right now, I'm like, damn, is he my favorite? You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, he's blowing my mind right now. And I love his last record, too. So now this one is like more like, well, personally, I just relate to it in a lot of ways, you know. So that's what I'm listening to at this exact moment. But I do keep I keep my Shazam ready, man, for anything that I hear. You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's right. So,
Yeah.
so are you guys on tour right now, Atmosphere?
No, we're not at this moment. No, we just kind of wrapping up this record, and we start touring in the fall or something like that.
Okay, and
We're never far away to go on tour. Yeah.
but there's a new record coming.
We stay on the road. I can't. I'm not sure exactly, but I would assume in the fall sometime. You know, something like that.
This is kind of a weird.
Get that, you know.
For sure.
Get that work here working. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. We don't want to get you in trouble. This is kind of a weird question, but it seems like you keep a really low profile, and what I guess I want to ask you is, like, does it work? Like, can you go to the grocery store and people don't come up to you, like in your hometown? Like, are you able to live a normal life?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I can go to hip hop shows and no one fucks with me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right
Like,
on. Yeah,
I'm not known like that. Yeah, I mean, but back in maybe our quote unquote highlight years, maybe the Seventh Travels type era, that type of shit. And when I had a long ponytail and mustache, I was a little more noticeable, maybe shit like that.
sure.
When I was out at the bars every night, maybe it was a little more cracking. You know what I mean? But right now, man, I don't give a fuck. But I see people sometimes. I see people sometimes looking at me. Hey, shit, what you doing here? You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been, a long time veterans, and multiple projects, and the scene you built has been incredible. Any last comments for just longtime fans who've been with you guys since the Overcast, Headshots era?
Oh man, no, not much other than thanks for searching me out and shit. That was kind of cute. I appreciate it.
All right, Ant, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Ant from Atmosphere, thank you for your time, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thank you.
All right, cool, brother.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.
Later.
Yeah.
And a 1 and a 2. We want to thank you for listening to another dope episode of the Dad Bod Rap Pod. More fly conversation and interviews coming your way every week.
You can find the podcast on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/dadbodrappod, and we're always down to interact with you on Twitter @dadbodrappod, all spelled out.
Subscribe on Stitcher, Google Play, and iTunes.